Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch and welcome to my studio. If you were looking for such a video, you probably already either on vacation mood or you just came back with tons of seashells in your backpacks. So let's paint today few different seashells in a very loose impressionistic technique, and I hope you really enjoy these and enjoy your sweet memories from vacations. So let's start. To paint first seashell, I will paint just with water this spiral thing, and let's start with the magic. I'm painting with ultramarine blue, and I just allow my watercolor to distribute by itself. I just follow the path I created with the water, and really right now I just enjoy how things are happening here. And if I, for example, see, okay, this place might need some help, I just help with my wet brush. And for example, I would like to add some texture, so I drag out color from the side of a seashell and I bring it to the center. And I could play around and add some spots and dots and just be very creative and let watercolor does its job. To make you could leave it like this, just in monochrome ultramarine blue. It's lovely already, but I think I would like to play around with colors and make the seashell really bright and joyful and sun-kissed. So I add permanent orange. You could use any orange, it's very contrast, it's very bright. It's a very bright pair with ultramarine blue, and it really plays nicely. To avoid getting it too gray, try not to put orange color in the very bright areas of ultramarine blue. I usually find some spots where it's slightly lighter. And with wet brush I could distribute a little bit. I could smooth the area like this. I think I would like to add some pinkish touch. I will take quinacridone rose and add few small spots in some wet areas. And with very diluted pink, I go like this. Now I've washed my brush, I dried but not very much dry, and I go along this line just to make it a bit more smooth. And also around this edge, I think it could be a slightly smoother. So I just go with my wet brush, not very wet, relatively wet, and if I touch this area, you see, just with wet and clean brush, it creates this nice watercolor texture. And this is our first seashell, and let's paint another one. Again, I prepare with wet with wet brush. To make it easier, you could take very diluted color, just so you could see the outlines, and I just prepare the shape, because I like when watercolor really does its work by itself. For this one I will take cerulean blue, the cold blue, and I mix it with ultramarine and just let it flow. And I mix colors right in these watercolor puddles. And that's very fun. It's very fun, it's very creative. With the tip of the brush I'm painting these folders on the seashell. Sometimes I do this wiggling move to create this curvy pot. Usually inside a seashell it's a darker pot, so I just go right to my watercolor palette and paint something dark here. And with the tip of the brush I create a nice curvy outline. Look how beautiful it is. And this one is very bright. I would like to make them look like from one collection, so I will add few orange brush strokes to make it sparkle. Like this. Something on the very tip. I think it would be very nice eye catcher here. And maybe a few lines around here, and that's really, it's for your imagination. As far as your imagination brings you, you could be very creative. You could create some texture around. You could slightly distribute the texture, or for example with clean and wet brush smooth a little bit these borders, or leave them very sharp. It's all up to you. And let's try something else. Let's try the one which looks like this. I again with wet brush, to make it easier, I will take a little bit, a hint of cerulean, just to show the outlines, and I'm watering the area relatively random. I paint these lines which later on create a folder, maybe some tipping around. And I think I very much like cerulean, how it works for seashells. And now I go again along this along these watered lines with cerulean, and with ultramarine blue I add ultramarine blue a little bit close to the middle to create this volume. And I like to create some texture and random structure. So I really, you see, I just play around. I wash my brush, and I'm not taking any color from the palette, because I think I have enough of colors right in my painting. and I just drag out the color from my painting, and I create these curves. For example, I could a little bit distribute the darker color right from my picture to these edges. It's amazing how many colors and shades you could get just from one image, without constantly getting back to your palette. I'm just drag out the colors and I create this bottom. I want to soften a little bit some edges on one side. I will make them sharp on the left. I will leave them sharp on the left, and I will soften them on the right. Okay, now it's it's okay to use some colors from the palette to emphasize, to make these crispy edges like this. I use very random moves for my brush. Sometimes I'm tipping with my brush or wiggling around, so it's very random. And I'm thinking, where could I add some orange brush strokes? I wash my brush, I dry my brush a little bit, and I distribute this orange color. I try not to go too much into blue area, because once orange color mix with ultramarine, it will turn into gray color, which could be great when we paint white flowers, wink wink, but maybe not for bright seashells. And some crispiness touch and some texture around. Here on the more diluted areas, it's very nice to add orange color right in the puddle and let it all distribute by itself. Maybe some touch of cerulean. And let's paint something else. Let's try to paint these open seashell with very diluted water on my brush. I will paint just the outlines. So I will just prepare an area where I will start to play with watercolor. I'm taking cerulean. I will start with the middle because it's the darkest spot. I go around. I will paint all these horns. And right on my painting, I'm mixing it with ultramarine blue. I very much like the contrast with these two colors, cerulean and ultramarine blue. I think it looks very bright, very summer. This cerulean, it's the color of the water in the swimming pools, and with this very bold ultramarine, it creates such a nice vacation mode, isn't it? So improvising, I think it could be nice to add some dots here around and some crispy edge here. I'm just wiggling my brush like this to create this crispy part, and gain some horns. I will paint horns on the bottom with slightly darker, with more using ultramarine blue, just for contrast. I soften a little bit some areas, and now I would like to add some spots of orange color for fun. And I distribute it's a little bit. And just maybe as a final touch, some darker area here and some texture around. Usually these types of seashells, they have a lot of prickles, and they're very textured. They are not they're very crispy, so with the tip of the brush I try to imitate that feeling, and this is it. Thank you so much for watching this video and painting all together. I hope now your seashell collection is much bigger, and I'm looking forward to see your feedback and comments. Subscribe my channel and see you next time. Bye bye.